Check out the Full Press Hockey Podcast with Jim Biringer, the best in the business. It's going to be great.
Hello, everyone. Jim Biringer here. David Calabretta back again. Full Press Hockey weekly NHL rumor segment. Follow along. Click that notify button. Stay subscribed. Give us a like on a video as well. Guys, we are back. Second time this week. We had to because guess what? The NHL trade freeze is here. The holidays season is right around the corner. We had a lot of action Wednesday night. 2 trades, one in Montreal involving Alexandre Carrier coming in and Justin Barron going out. We knew the Montreal Canadiens were looking to trade. We knew they were looking to upgrade, and they needed a piece on their top 4. I love this addition.
Yeah, me too. I'm really nice to see a nice deal going on in Montreal. Got a vet presence in the back end. And, you know, the reality is Justin Barron was being showcased the last weeks. And many were wondering why he was in the lineup for so long and Struble would sit. And it was basically just to showcase him. And Nashville's had him on his radar for some time now. And obviously Nashville currently sits second last in the National Hockey League. So they're like, you know, let's sell off and go get a young piece who's going to get top 4 minutes in Nashville as well. So I like the deal for both sides, but Montreal really capitalized here and got a hometown boy as well.
Yeah, and not to mention his cap hit is $3.75 million for the next 3 seasons, including this one. That's why I say 3 seasons, because he just signed in the offseason. And he was a target for a lot of teams last year at the deadline, too. And it was a head scratcher why he didn't go like Lazan, like all the moves that Barry Trotz made early in the season. You wondered why they didn't do them then, and now they move on from Carrier. This feels like an off-season move that could have been done. Right? It felt like that. It also sets up the Canadiens, as we've been discussing, for them to make other moves, like a Mike Matheson and David Savard. We know Jake Evans is out there, but I don't know. I think they're going to sign Jake Evans. That's just me. I really haven't heard the smoke like you have up there, but they really like Evans.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I kind of tweeted it last night. You know, Montreal really, they're expecting to get calls on David Savard and Matheson as we approach the 4 Nations face-off, even earlier than the deadline. And, you know, for them, they can't just go in with an all-rookie blue line. And Carrier, I said it before, and I'll say again, he's not a rental. Like I said, he has 3 years left on his deal. And he's going to be that guy when Savard gets moved in the coming months.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely going to get moved. I know Dvorak's out there as well. They have other pieces that I think they're going to set this up, but this was a priority for them to get a top 4 defenseman. We know we had talked about Juracek, but we knew Columbus wasn't going to stay in the Eastern Conference with Juracek, but that would have been a nice piece as well. But you get a nice veteran presence, a guy also that kind of was misused in Nashville, along with a lot of other guys that have left, Tomasino, Dante Fabro. I think Fabro actually been really good in Montreal, to be honest. I think he's been a nice fit too. But I agree. I think Savard's going to go, and I think Matheson most likely will follow his way out because of the 1.5 years left on his deal.
Yeah, and it was more of a not trying to lose Justin Barron on waivers type of thing. And that's why Dante Fabro, obviously a claim would have been necessary. It would have been good, but again, it would have caused another logjam on D. And that's not what Montreal really wanted. But yeah, going back to Matheson, Savard, they're going to get calls on them. And Montreal now feels a bit more comfortable to get rid of them after getting a guy like Carrier.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that wasn't the only trade involving an original 6 team. A little after, when I was on another program, I talked about how Kaapo Kakko was gone. We were also talking about it here that we said his days were numbered in New York. The day after we do the show, he comes out with the comments, not happy about being a healthy scratch, always being a scapegoat, always being the guy that has to be benched. They lose. He has the least amount of ice time, and then he gets traded to Seattle for Will Borgen and a 3rd-round pick and a 6th-round pick in 2025. I caveat by saying this, that Borgen is a UFA. If they don't re-sign him or keep him, you basically traded the 2nd overall pick from 2019 for mid-round draft picks in 2025 NHL draft.
Yeah, and we've said it that he was on the move anyway, and he would be the odd man out, even though there's other guys that probably should have been gone before him. And it's a desperation move for the Rangers. I mean, Kakko, obviously, his comments didn't really lead to the trade, but it didn't really help. And it was kind of just a warning, like, yeah, he's gone. he knew it himself. But for the Rangers, I'm not a fan of the return.
No.
I don't think giving up a young piece for practically nothing is ever a smart move. And you're seeing teams do it more and more often. And at the end of the day, I find Kakko's been playing one of the better hockey in his career this season. The points aren't really showing, but I look at Seattle and I've seen what they've done with Eli Tolvanen. I think Kakko has a chance to flourish and really show what he could become in Seattle as opposed to playing bottom 6 minutes in New York.
Yeah, no, I think the reunion with Eli Tolvanen and those guys played together World Juniors in Finland. I think that's going to be great. Don't forget Matty Beniers is there, Shane, right? He's going to have opportunities to play top 6. He's going to have opportunities finally to play power play. He was a good forward that was underutilized. Reminds me of Nino Niederreiter when he was with the Islanders. Then he goes to Minnesota and become a really good NHL player. I think Kaapo Kakko has the potential to showcase what he could be and what he was when he got drafted second overall in 2019. I just don't think the Rangers used him wisely. And he became the scapegoat. Anytime they wanted to make a change, anytime they wanted to make a scratch. I go back to Game 6 of 2022, conference final, scratch. Last year, scratch. Now, scratch again. Now, look, I said this yesterday in some of the reactions that I did. Was this a get-me-out-of-here kind of trade? Yeah, I do believe that. While he didn't come out and say he asked to be traded, he said conversations happened. I've yet to have it confirmed, but my gut tells me this was on Tuesday night, find a way to get me out of New York because I don't want to be here anymore. I'm tired of this stuff, and I'm tired of being the odd man out when everybody else is a problem, and I'm not the problem. He was a +9, 14 points. I don't think that's one of the reasons why the Rangers are as bad as they are, and the problems are because of Kaapo Kakko. And I think he's going to flourish in Seattle. And like I said, I think this is a get-me-out-of-here kind of trade.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one, Jim. And I mean, the Rangers basically got left with no choice to get rid of him. Like I said, comments didn't help. But they also got Borgen, who, look, we're not going to just single him out and say that he's a nothing piece. The Rangers kind of needed some help on defense. They've been disastrous in their own zone. And he's a stay-at-home guy, makes $2.5 million, pending UFA. I mean, if there was something to get from a Kakko trade, it would be a stay-at-home D. So, again, do I like the return? No, but the Rangers kind of, once again, had no choice to do something here.
No, exactly. They have to, and they have other pieces. Keandre Miller, Ryan Lindgren, Chris Kreider's name's still out there, Mika Zibanejad. It feels like they're going to reshape this entire lineup. Chris Drury, again, the no country club kind of attitude, the stuff that we're seeing and coming out here, the soft mutiny. I knew James Dolan, going back to what I said about Jeff Gordon and JD, I think they butted heads. And I still think Glenn Sather and I still think Mark Messier are in the ear of a certain owner in New York because they want to do it a certain way when Mike Keenan was there in 1994, and I don't think it's working anymore. And you're seeing it. And look, if Chris Drury wants to put Peter Laviolette's job on the line, then he better put his job on the line too, because if he fires Peter Laviolette, the next guy that goes is Chris Drury.
Yeah, like we said, it's a whole – they have to clean house. If they're going to get rid of one guy, it's everyone. So there's a lot of problems in New York.
So I got a question for you. We talk about the return, right? So does everybody remember what the return was for Kirby Dach?
Yeah. First-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
Pick.
Yep. That was a hell of a lot more than what the Rangers got for the guy that went before him in the same draft.
And Kirby Dach didn't prove much at the time either.
No.
So it speaks volumes on the return. And I don't know. I'm not sure if there were more teams involved because I heard there were. But clearly the Rangers, teams are using it as a tactic. We're not going to give you a lot. You guys are already a mess. We know you're desperate, and that's it.
Well, and why I say it feels like a get me out of here kind of trade, and then we'll move on to the juicier stuff. Because if they really targeted Borgen, and not to pick on him because he does help them, this move could have been made in the offseason. You're telling me Seattle was holding up Will Borgen for Kaapo Kakko when the Rangers had chances to get Jake Getzel, Jack Eichel, Adam Henrique, Frank Vetrano last year, and other players, and teams were calling about Kaapo Kakko and more valuable that could have really changed this team. That's why I say this is kind of a get me out of here kind of trade. And this is what they needed. And now, again, we heard they wanted D and other teams maybe weren't willing up to give up D. I think it's a cop-out, to be honest.
Yeah, I have to agree with you.
That's just me, though. Personally, that's just me. All right. So the clock is ticking as we record on this thing because of, well, the holiday freeze, as we said off the top. The big name, we talked about it Monday, Dylan Cozens, Buffalo Sabres. The Vultures are circling. Teams are circling. It's been reported. Nashville eyeing Dylan Cozens. They want a center. They cleared out more cap space. They could take on his whole cap hit. Would it be wise for the Buffalo Sabres to do it depending on the return?
It's all going to have to do with the return. And one thing I'll tell you, Nashville is desperate right now. And when a team is desperate, you capitalize. And I think Buffalo is really listening right now. And look, this is going to be published in a few hours, our podcast maybe in a few 2-3 hours. And I wouldn't be surprised if a trade gets done as we post this, because I'm hearing there's too much smoke around the Nashville Predators right now. Last night's trade wasn't a coincidence. They wouldn't have done this trade if there wasn't something bigger coming. And obviously, you trade a proven guy like Carrier for an unproven defenseman. It has to do with money. And Dylan Cozens is definitely on their radar. Like we said, they need a 1C. And if I'm Buffalo and I see the desperation in Nashville, it's pretty obvious right now. I'm pulling the trigger.
Yeah, I would too. And I think we talked about this, that I think, talked with some people, I think if they're going to do it, I think Tommy Novak has to be involved. I know the Predators have been really reluctant to move on from him, but he's got a decent cap hit, $3.75 million, maybe a little bit less than that. And they have multiple first-round picks. That could get it done. I think that could be the package and maybe a prospect that could get it done.
Yeah, for sure. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's other teams involved here. But again, like I said, Nashville is practically the front runner, and he could be a Predator by the end of the night.
Yeah, he could be. I mean, he could be one. I think Calgary's a fit for Dylan Cozens too. I really do. I think he could fit the mold. Like I said, when talking with Craig Conroy, their GM, he said age-appropriate center under 30. He'd be willing to move a first-round pick for. That's the kind of player I would imagine he would want to move a first-round pick for. That's one of those guys. And, they have another guy out there, Bo Byram in Buffalo. Vancouver Canucks also looking to make noise right before the deadline. They're trying to be aggressive. We know that they have a history of that with Jim Rutherford, Patrick Alvin. And, look, they're trying to get Byram done. It doesn't sound like Provorov's going anywhere. Do you think Vancouver can strike before the midnight deadline?
They've been calling teams, and it's been confirmed. And they want to go top 4. They want to get a top 4D. Carrier's gone. He was a good option for them, a nice right-hand defenseman. But if we're talking a Bowen Byram trade, do I see this happening by midnight? I'm not as confident with Vancouver just because there's so much – they don't have as much money to play with as Nashville do right now. And I also don't think Vancouver is that desperate as Nashville right now. But again, Buffalo is the talk of the day right now, and I'm sure GM Kevin Adams is on the phone as we speak.
Yeah.
Trying to get something done.
I wouldn't doubt it. I think I could definitely agree with you. I think Cozens could go. And I just want to circle back real quick when we talked about the Rangers. Do you see, because you see they're moving out cap space, and if they make a big move, do you think they could go after somebody like a Mikko Rantanen or Mitch Marner in the offseason?
I think they have the market for it, big city. I think players are enticed to go there, especially guys that are going to make big bucks. I think a year ago I would have said yes, but now free agents are not really trending towards the New York Rangers, and it's all because of how management has dealt with previous players like Goodrow and Trouba. But again, cap space moves, money talks, and a guy like Mitch Marner, if he's not signed and New York gives him $12 to $13 million, it's going to be hard to say no.
Yeah, and then with the Canucks, again, I've heard they've been looking for a winger. Does that mean the end of Brock Besser in Vancouver since there has been no contract talks?
It could be. It could very much be because I think it's a bit too quiet on his front. And I also think that he's not really playing up to par. I get he's been injured, but he's not really moved the needle to make and ask for $8.5 million this year.
No, I agree with that. Obviously, the Senators are looking to make moves. They want to add a top 4 defenseman. Josh Norris is a name that's out there too. He could potentially go someplace, but the Senators are on a winning streak right now, so I don't know if they're going to want to mess with what they have. That could be more of an off-season move. Us, Buffalo. So somebody asked me this one. I want to bounce this one off you. Somebody asked me yesterday, is there anybody that could fix the Buffalo Sabres? And Pierre LeBrun, I could give credit to him after he said this, but I said this too. I said, why not Brian Burke? Why not bring Brian Burke in there? He knows what to do. He knows how to fix messes. Could you see him being like a president of hockey ops if they really don't want to get rid of Kevin Adams?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think you have to look and evaluate for everything. I don't think a player is going to fix this team right now. It has to be something of management, and it starts upstairs. And Brian Burke is probably the most experienced executive in the National Hockey League right now, other than maybe Lou Lamoriello. But so, I mean, Buffalo need someone who's been through this before, who's been through a rut, and like Brian Burke is an amazing option for Buffalo.
No, same with Ken Holland. I was thinking of Ken Holland too when I said, okay, well, if they want to keep Kevin Adams around, they better give him some help. And I think those two guys could potentially be the guys that can help them out. Now, again, there's not a lot you can do before the holiday trade freeze. It's very, very tough to make those big, big deals. We've seen a couple of minor deals. If Cozens doesn't go, do we see minor deals? Or are we just going to be shut down?
And Buffalo?
No, just anywhere.
I think tonight, I wouldn't expect as busy as yesterday, but I think we might see a deal or two tonight. But I'm really keeping my eye on the Sabres. If there's a team that's going to make a move tonight, I think it's the Sabres. What about you, Jim?
Yeah, I think so. I agree with you. I think there's too much noise around Buffalo not to make a move, especially after what happened the other night in Montreal where they got shellacked. And, I mean, they did. I mean, you give up a goal 19 seconds in after your owner comes out and says, we believe in a room. It's not in a room, boys.
Yeah.
It's not.
And they owe me a cap.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think Cozens is a guy. I think they really want to get something done. I think Barry, with his comments today, saying would be surprised if we're going to make another move if the right piece is there. The right piece is Dylan Cozens. I think he wants to get Dylan Cozens a Nashville Predator. But if you can't get it done tonight, it'll probably have to be after the break. But I think this is the most activity I have seen before the holiday freeze ever since I've been covering the league, because the phone just doesn't stop and the rumors are everywhere.
Yeah, Kent Hughes was making moves in Russia last night at 3 a.m.,
Yeah.
So it's just, last week, if you would have asked me if I would expect any action next week, I'd be like, no, it's just a regular week in the NHL. And then last night, it just trades. And then I'm sure people are going to be scrolling on Twitter for the next 7 hours until the deadline, because it feels like a trade deadline. But at the end of the day, there's that pressure to make a move before the holidays, but it's going to return on December 27th.
Exactly.
So I still think Cozens, look, I think tonight there's about a 50% chance he's gone. But that other 50 is going to be next week when it returns.
Yeah.
So there's the GMs could still be talking in the next week. You just
can't do anything.
You can't pull the trigger. So I think Nashville and Buffalo are going to keep tabs until they get the deal done. It's a matter of when.
I agree with you on that. I 100% agree with you on that. So, guys, Full Press Hockey is the place to be. Click the notify button. Click that subscribe button. Give us a like on the video. Check us out at Full Press NHL on Twitter, Mad Radio Sports as well. We'll be up on FullPressHockey.com, also up on YouTube as well. Jim Biringer, David Calabretta here. Guys, I hope you guys have a happy holidays, and we'll be back after breaking it all down for you. Take care.
Happy holidays.
Barry Trotz, Nashville Predators, making sure you're listening to Full Press Hockey Podcast.